Hi, Phil Aston here from Now Spinning Magazine. Ian Gillan is 81. Am I going to do another top 10 Gillan tracks like I've done for the last few years? Yeah, I think I will. So Ian Gillan is 81 years of age, still treading the boards with Deep Purple. And I thought I'd pull together another kind of pretend compilation album featuring some of his finest works. I've done this a couple of times already, and it just changes every time I do it because different tracks, float to the top of mind and others kind of float further out. We go in a wider orbit, but they'll come back. Before I start, the thing about Ian Gillan is 81. I remember seeing the band on the Bananas tour just when that album was about to appear, and it was at the NEC in Birmingham, and I met a group of guys who'd come all the way over from Australia to see the band, and we were talking about Purple and that, and one of the guys said, I think we're moving towards the end game now. Ian Gillan's 60 next year, and I think that'll be it. I think they'll just stop because he's going to be 60. Of course, that means I was kind of in my 40s, but we didn't know any rock stars in their 60s really. So we just thought we're bound to stop because we don't know any rock stars of that age. And here we are. I'm now in my 60s, and Ian Gillan is still singing in Deep Purple. You just wouldn't have guessed it. Anyway, track 1, side 1 of this particular compilation album in honour of Ian Gillan's fantastic contributions to the soundtrack of our lives. I'm going to start with Glory Road from 1980. And the track is On the Rocks. It's nearly 7 minutes. On the Rocks. One of Gillan's finest tracks. You've got all those little sound effects, the baby crying and Colin Towns coming in with his ethereal keyboards, and then it moves into this absolutely amazing keyboard riff, and it's an epic rock song where Gillan really kind of socially aware of lyrics, Bernard Torme's out of control guitar over Towns' orchestral disciplined stuff, and John McCoy bouncing around all over the place with his distorted bass, and Mick Underwood on there as well. It's a fantastic album anyway, and the value for money, what's this one say? Includes a free album for Gillan fans only, limited edition. Gillan really gave you value for money. Every B-side wasn't on an album. There was so much stuff on it. But On the Rocks is where I'm going to start with track 1, side 1 of my celebration for Ian Gillan's birthday. The next one has been kind of, somebody said to me, if you don't mention 3 songs in particular, Phil, I think it's Jerry Bloom. Hi, Jerry. And you're going to come round and steal my cat. But this track was going to be on there anyway. So, Jerry, it's fine. Chill. Chili beans. It's Gethsemane. Oh, God. Gethsemane. Right, I'm there. From Jesus Christ Superstar 1970. The main track, the second track on the second disc. This is obviously a vinyl version of it. There's multiple. I've got the Super Deluxe edition. I've got the 2 CD version. There it is. Yes. It's interesting. On disc 2, it's called Heaven in Their Minds. It doesn't say that actually on the thing. That's why I can never pronounce it. I'm going to have another go. Gethsemane. This is the part in the story where Jesus has realised he's being betrayed and everything, and Gillan sings here. This performance by Ian Gillan goes through this whole toolbox, his whole portfolio of stuff. You can see why he was picked. It has the silver-throated screaming in perfect tune with the soft balladeering, the kind of rock-centric singing, everything that Ian Gillan is known for, every frequency, everything he can touch and do. And this is so much out of his comfort zone because this isn't 4/4 rock. He's got to try and make these words fit in. And again, we imagine a lot of musicals, there's too many words and there is for the melody line to attach themselves to. But Ian does such a fantastic job. It really is it is a perfect example. Someone said, what else can Ian Gillan do? He does this. Amazing. So that is track 2. You're going to try and say it again, Phil? Gethsemane. Said with confidence, from Jesus Christ Superstar 1970. Track 3 is also carries that kind of spiritual aspect to it. I do have this on vinyl, but can I find it? Can I bollocks? It is Hallelujah, which is on Harvest Records, but this isn't. This is a CD single, which is taken from the Deep Purple singles little box set, and it is Hallelujah from 1969. B-side was April from the third Deep Purple album. So this is like Ian Gillan's first recording with Deep Purple while Rod Evans was still there, and he didn't know anything about this. But it's also, you can see the video on it, but it's wonderful. It's Ian Gillan's angelic voice, and it's a pop song. It's psychedelic. It's kind of its time, but I love it. Hallelujah is track 3. Next is zooming through the decades for the next one, and it's from an album that I actually play a lot by Mr. Gillan, and it is One Eye to Morocco. When was this? I remember Jeff Barton in Kerrang saying it was good how, as musicians move to the twilight years of their careers, they kind of adapt to do other things. This is 2009. That's like so many years ago, and he's still treading the boards with Deep Purple. It's a very, very different vocal approach. It's more gentle. There's some great stuff on here, great songs. It's just great. I love this album. I wish they'd brought it on vinyl, actually. I think it came with a 7-inch single, which are also available on other things now. But One Eye to Morocco is my favourite track. It's just joyous. So that is number 4 on my imaginary compilation album for Ian Gillan at 81. So the last track on side 1, track 5, is one that will probably feature every time I do anything like this. It will be Fighting Man, from the Japanese album as well as here. And in fact, Fighting Man was recorded so well, so perfectly, it couldn't be improved upon, that they just took it from the Japanese version of the Japanese album as it's known and plonked it onto Mr. Universe in 1979, because it was originally recorded in 1978, and it ends the album at 7.5 minutes long. It was written by Colin Towns. It was the song that made Gillan realise that maybe the Ian Gillan Band wasn't the direction he should be going in, all this jazz fusion stuff. I love that stuff, although actually I have to say there isn't any Ian Gillan Band material in this year's selection. But Fighting Man is a fantastic lyric. It shows again Ian's range. It has the screams in it, but done over a very kind of more melancholy, laid-back background. Great guitar solo by Steve Bird. But Ian Gillan's, it's kind of it's a song that I never tire of, and I think anytime anyone ever hears it, even if they don't know much about Ian Gillan or whatever, they always go, "What? Who's this?" Or it becomes, I think it floats to the surface of anyone's top 10, 20, whatever of Ian Gillan's performances. Fighting Man from Mr. Universe or the Japanese album, depending on which one you've got, is always there, and I think it'll always be in my lists, really. Right, track 1, side 2 of my Ian Gillan at 81 album would be, I should have had this out and prepared, but here it is. Right, and it's from Double Trouble. It's from 1981, I believe. It is 1981. An album at the time which I thought the live stuff on this was very much inferior to the studio stuff, and I didn't immediately connect to the studio stuff. It was different. Bernie Torme had gone. Janet Gears, who eventually went on to be in Iron Maiden, was on this, and it's more melodic. It's different. There were certain tracks like Sunbeam that I just absolutely loved, but the song that has over the years has just kept nudging its way into a list like this is Born to Kill, 9.5 minutes long. on side 2. And I think this is the first year that I've actually included it. But every time I've talked about Gillan and best tracks, people always go, where's Born to Kill, Phil? Why haven't you included Born to Kill? And the more I've listened to it, the more I realise just how exciting, varied and progressive that track is. It is yet another Gillan Townes number. In fact, if you wanted to, anyone who wants to explore the Gillan Band, just look for the songwriting credits of Gillan Townes, and those are the songs. Nearly always, 9 times out of 10, those are the best tracks on all of the albums from this period in Gillan's career. So, Born to Kill from Double Trouble. The next one is not been on my list before, but I felt when I've been playing lots of stuff recently, I thought, yeah, I'm going to include this. So this is kind of like the wildcard number where people go, really? It's from Who Do We Think We Are? And it's Place in Line. And I've included this because I remember when I first heard this album, I actually thought, who's singing? Who's singing this? Because it didn't sound like Ian Gillan at all at the beginning. And even now when I kind of listen to it after all these years, it still is unique. It's still unique in the world of Ian Gillan on his vocal styles. There is nothing else in the recorded repertoire that sounds like Place in Line when he sings the verses before it moves into the kind of like the faster, kind of more lazy, kind of esque aspect. Because this is a kind of R&B bluesy number, very much like Lazy. And once it kind of speeds up, then you know it's him. You know it's Ian Gillan. But before that, it's kind of very, very different. But I've included that because it's very, very different. So Place in Line from Who Do We Think We Are from 1973. The next one, I don't think I've featured it before, but I think it's a wonderful example of another side of Ian Gillan's vocals, and it is When a Blind Man Cries, the B-side of Never Before, the track that didn't make it onto Machine Head unless you bought the Dweezil Zappa remix when it sits on there. But here it is from 1972. It's hard to explain to maybe a lot of people, is that if something was on the B-side and it wasn't on the album, and this, I think this single wasn't a hit, it got to number 35, and it's actually the first Deep Purple song I ever heard in my life was Never Before, and it was listening to the New Year's Eve countdown, and the DJ, could have been Alan Freeman, was playing tracks that should have made it but didn't, and he played Never Before. So it didn't sell, and by the time I'd caught up, you couldn't hear When a Blind Man Cries. It wasn't on anything. It wasn't on any compilation albums. So if you missed it, you missed it. It was, I think I eventually tracked it down on a Mark I and Mark II German compilation album, but that was years later. So it eventually started to appear in 1977 on a maxi single, and it was on jukeboxes, and more people, I think, heard it for the first time. Not only has it got a beautiful guitar solo by Richie Blackmore on it, but I think Ian Gillan's vocal of When a Blind Man Cries, lyrically and wonderful, and of course it has some kind of prophetic aspect to it with Ian's struggles with his vision. But I think it's an absolutely top draw Deep Purple song and absolutely amazing vocal performance by Ian Gillan. There are 2 left. We're going to 1996, I think. We are 1996, and it is from Perpendicular. And it's Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming. I think this is the classic from the Steve Morse period of Deep Purple. I'm a huge fan of that period, and I do think the band should dip into that catalogue of music. But if they had to pick one track that sums up the Steve Morse period, it would be Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming. They did it with an orchestra. It was in the set for a long time. I think it's uplifting. I think it's wonderful. Again, it's a wonderful lyric. It's a wonderful vocal performance. I could have picked Aviator from here as well. There's so many different styles of music on this album. They were free to do what they wanted, and they really enjoyed it. But Sometimes I Feel Like Screaming is the last but one track on my Ian Gillan 81 compilation album. And finally, the last track on side 2, it can't really be anything else. Back to 1970, the same year as Jesus Christ Superstar. It is from the album Deep Purple in Rock, and it is Child in Time. I think not only is this an album that defines a period in time and invented and became the template for so many styles of music, but I think Ian Gillan's reputation, and because before this we had, everyone wanted a single out of a plant and all the kind of stuff, but Ian Gillan doing Child in Time put himself out there and being completely unique, because no one else could do that. Whoever the other big rock bands were at the time, nobody had an Ian Gillan. Nobody had a Child in Time. And the way that you could say that on Made in Japan, it goes from that fairly quiet ooze to the just scream from literally 0 to 60 in 2 seconds. But here it builds up and builds up. And so it kind of adds more dynamics, more tension, more emotion. So when we reach the highest screams and then move into that bolero kind of pattern before Richie Blackmore comes in with the melodic part of the solo before he just heads off to the sun, it's all down to Ian Gillan building up that tension in the song. It's an absolutely classic song and a track that would scare your parents back then and now possibly scare your kids. Child in Time from Deep Purple in Rock. So that is my top 10 tracks, my imaginary album, 5 tracks aside, looking at Ian Gillan's career for his 81st birthday. What would you pick? Better be different, wouldn't it? Let me know in the comments. It'd be great to see what you've come up with. Remember, please subscribe, ring that little bell if you want to see more of my wafflings about music. And of course, the website, nowspinning.co.uk, there are no adverts on it. For a music website, this is pretty remarkable. And that's because of the support I get from patrons. And in return, patrons get access to WhatsApp communities. And this community is one of the safest, most friendliest music places on planet Earth. We also have our own private pub called the Now Spinning Arms, where it meets up twice a month. You can chill out with like-minded people. We have merch. We have our own music shop selling CDs, box sets and vinyl as well. Remember, music is the healer and the doctor. Please take care, keep spinning those discs, and I'll talk to you all very, very soon.